It is. Cool.
So welcome. Where are you?
Yes, I'm over here. Hello. Nice to see you.
We're on the same page then.
Yes.
In terms of computers,
Yeah,
computers.
It's only DORICO for me right now. Yeah, like.
Well, you know, I have to say I've got no over DORICO. Since I got it, my pupil put it on my computer, and then I had to go using it, and then I got it couldn't do any of the things I wanted it to do. But I was kind of trying to do multiple time signatures, you know, and to have 4 time signatures at the same time, and then we tried to copy bar, it wasn't working. I just got so frustrated with that. I just thought I'll maybe leave that for the time being. Come back to it a bit later.
Have you gone back to Sibelius or?
No.
What finale?
No, you know what? I've not really touched many scores for a little while.
Oh, right. Okay.
Most of the when I'm composing, when I'm working with things, I'm working with mainly concepts that evolve. I'm improvising with it's a particular concept I'm interested in, not a specific composition.
Yeah,
a particular concept, and that I improvise with that, and that
And
evolves.
you develop it from there, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all these pieces, the 12 etchings here, these are started as improvisations, and I played them in concerts, and they would kind of evolve and take shape. And then at some point, I felt like I needed to produce some proper scores, you know. So I kind of arranged them into a fixed form. But if I was ever to perform them, they would be probably all over the place. And
So
Yeah.
Is this the only score of solo piano, or the latest? What is this?
that's the only conventionally written score, yeah.
Right.
The album after this was called 31 Pieces, and I didn't really know how to write it down, so I never wrote it down. So it exists there as a recording, but I wouldn't know how to write it down. And the recent record, Meditations, similarly, it's semi-improvised.
Well,
Okay.
Do you know it?
this is only one page. There's another 3 pending
Look
because
what
it's.
he's done. This is Peter on
No,
DORICO.
but because you gave us the idea when we saw you at the Steinway party.
Right. I've heard very good things about it. People
We've
tell me
been
it's
using,
fantastic.
we've been using Sibelius, and we also had a finale which allowed us to transition into the DORICO.
Right.
Yeah,
This was
Price
on
wise as well.
This was on Sibelius.
This was one of Sibelius.
That was done like 10 years ago. At least,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, that makes sense.
Okay, because at the party when we met 2 months ago.
Yeah, but the DORICO was what I just got at that point, and I had great intentions to start using DORICO and all this kind of thing, and then I found I wanted to do this, I wanted to do that, and I didn't know how to do it.
Yes.
Particularly the idea of having 4 simultaneous speeds seems to be a difficulty
Which I
with
think
that.
is it the next one? Is it something
That one
like
has,
this?
I used 3 staves for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one does, but also the first one. The first one has, the first etude has 2 speeds in each hand.
This is for one. This is solo piano over 3.
But then it's standing how I write it as well, because do I want to write, for example, in 7 tuplets and 5 tuplets and 2 tuplets, or could I write in 7/8, 5/8, 3/8, and 2/8, which is what I prefer to writing, because that's how I'm thinking about it.
I see that. Yeah. That would. Yeah. I mean, it's a bit time consuming, but once because I've been looking at it for about a month or 2, and I've started writing the Fantasia Contrapuntistica on it from Musoni, the 2 piano version.
Right.
What I've noticed about it is that every time I try something new, it allows it, which is quite refreshing. Rather than Sibelius saying you can't do it.
Right.
There are some, but it takes a lot to get used to the differences.
Transition.
Because I'm still, there's still that nervous reaction of pressing, for example, N for note input. It doesn't do that in the DORICO. It does something different. It does enter or something. So it's like a compulsive type of
Yeah, for a little
stuff that
bit
you
of
have
a
to get rid
drama
of.
where he
Yeah.
wanted to go up an octave and he would turn the whole screen.
Yeah, that's something that is
interesting.
to do with the computer, I think. Yeah. So
It was just very
I found a difficulty in copying bars, so my people can help me, and I got after a little while, we got 7/8, 5/8, 3/8, 2/8. It took a long time to get it, to persuade DORICO to do that. Then I got a few bars in, and what I wanted to do was to copy those bars, so then I could then make edits, that kind of thing. And as soon as I copied the bar, it got completely confused, and with the different time signatures.
Yeah.
So it's,
It is.
I suppose the nature of this kind of stuff is that it does what's already done, and if you want to do something fundamentally new, on
That's where it gets a little bit.
Is it this one that
This is John. Is that John Lewis? Yeah, that's the one we tried.
The latest that he's given us. Give me a second, because I only see 10/8 really, but I think he.
It's not. With that one, it's the groupings of the notes that he does. He changes the groupings around a lot,
okay.
but the time signature's pretty standard. Yeah.
Here's the craziness.
I mean, on all of these, I think they're almost all 4/4. I think they're all the time signatures.
But it's the polyrhythms.
Yes, what is within that. But then I made that decision to write them in that way, to write them as tuplets rather than as different time signatures, because I felt it was easy to read. But the way I wanted it to come across, the way they want to be heard, is as 4 time signatures. That was like the basic.
Yeah.
Although in these days it was a lot simpler. It was a lot more just a couple of speeds or simpler ideas.
Yeah.
Do you know?
No.
Feldman, Morton Feldman. Now, for those who deal with.
For actually the 3 hands or for the effect of 3 hands?
Look at this.
Okay.
That is just nuts. And we have the equivalent also for 2 pianos, and it's still scripted like that. And it says as slow as possible, as soft as possible. I don't know if I'm referring to the 2 pianos or the 3. Is it 3 hands? 3 hands.
That says 3 hands. Yeah.
And that's it.
You could use your nose for that, couldn't you?
Yes.
For the 3rd hand?
Well, depends on the nose.
Actually, that's.
I might say too round.
It could because of the speed as well. It's not.
I mean, it's hard with your feet, isn't it? Because you can get your heels on black notes, but it's.
You can't get between the white keys. Yeah.
I remember when I was.
But if you have a nose like Mozart's,
When I was younger, I used to love that sort of thing, like stunts. I compared my nose, compared my foot, can I go, all that sort of thing. But practically speaking, it's very limited playing with one's nose.
It is, yeah.
There's not so much you can do.
Yeah.
That looks cool then.
Nice.
Can you guys play it? I'd like to hear
We
it.
can try.
We could try later. Yeah. I think it's pretty sight readable as long as you don't.
Yeah, exactly. We're at the sight readable thing, but it doesn't matter because it says as slow as possible, which means definitely
So we
you
can
get
take
to
it
find
as
the
long
notes.
as we can. Yeah, as slow as
Let me
possible.
find it right
You know
now.
that John Cage piece where he wrote as slow as possible? Some students did it and they did 1 note every few months or something. They got together. They got together every few months and played a note. And that's like,
Crazy.
why?
But how can you put that in? Yeah, I mean, this is
How do you
probably on a
record
geological scale, isn't it? Because fast forward it. Each month.
Wait, isn't
minute
there
per
a
month.
piece that continues to be composed? Do you know this?
Oh
I
gosh.
wouldn't be surprised, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a computer generated.
So it expands every
thing,
time.
And it just does
So
something.
it's always a work in progress.
See that I'm really interested in that because I feel with my own music that I don't like the idea, I don't feel comfortable with the idea of things being finished and set and petrified.
Yeah.
I feel like a piece of music wants to be alive and always different, always changing. And every time I'm playing a concert, the pieces come out differently. And they're subject to the inspiration of the moment, and they're subject to what I've been listening to recently and how I'm evolving generally. And I feel like that's a difficulty I have composing because the standard is to write them down in this kind of way, but I feel more and more the further I go, the harder it is to kind of reduce these things to write them down and to find a specific, this is the way that it wants to go, where it wants to be a little bit
It
different.
must be interesting when you're working on them at different days as well, because you have a different frame of mind, I suppose.
Yeah, how much sleep have I had? How much have I eaten?
Exactly. Everything influences your
Recently, we went to see the Ring Cycle. My wife and I went to see a reduced Ring Cycle. It's my favourite work. I love the Ring Cycle.
Yeah.
And this one was a reduced 22-piece orchestra. So in the last couple of weeks, I've had my head full of the Ring, and it comes out in the course of the improvisations. That kind of sort of chromatic-y kind of harmony and the crazy modulations that.
How do they manage to do it as a 22-piece?
With difficulty, to be honest. I mean, I felt like it was a good effort, and it made the tickets much cheaper because the whole cycle was less than 200 quid for the whole cycle. But you definitely
still the same time, right? It's still the same amount of time.
Still the same amount of time. Yeah, still all the singing's the same.
Yeah.
Some funny staging ideas as always. Some silly staging. You can't hard to avoid that. But yeah, some things work well. Some of the quiet bits, but the big bits suffered. Without having the percussion, without having all of the horns. So it was interesting. It was an interesting experience. It was in Bethnal Green, I think.
Yeah.
To see it. Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty cool.
Well, So it says 3 hands. We haven't done this. It says as slow as possible. Shall we have fun with the first line or so? And see if we get lost. 1 line per person, we're 3.
Ah, 3 different hands.
Different
How about that?
hands.
Different hands,
Doesn't
right.
Shall we
sound,
do that?
sound bad as an idea, yeah.
So this is Feldman. It says
Yeah,
3
that's
hands.
fine,
It doesn't specify whose hands. It does say piano grip, right? No, it says piano 3 hands. It doesn't say whose hand.
Doesn't say which hands, yeah.
No.
Doesn't even specify human hands.
Exactly. I was thinking of a cat. Exactly.
Yeah.
Third hand is. Okay. So okay.
We'll do it. Okay, but
Okay.
if you bring it like that, it's a note to my attention. You're an octave down.
That's gonna throw me. That is.
That's too exact.
Two octaves. 2 octaves. That's gonna throw me.
It's
Okay,
gonna
this
be
is,
awful.
yeah,
Okay.
interesting, okay.
Well, oh, how about the pedal now? What does it say? A soft dance. Fine.
it's bound to happen at some point, isn't it?
What do you think he's getting at with this? What effect do you think he's trying to have on the listener?
And this is early first half of the 20th century, and I think we did rush it, I have to say. I don't know
Yeah,
how
it's as slow as possible. Well, I think with as slow as possible, you'll as long until the note goes. And how long does that seem to stay there?
Possibly for that.
Well,
Yeah.
a few seconds. I think more than the 4 that I was pretty much going for. Yeah, I was trying not to lose the sound, but it is a question of do you want to actually go to the edge of that or not? So I think it is a little bit more posing some questions about the relationship to the sound and the listener and the type of sound world that you might be creating. And somehow I was playing this and I was thinking, oh, it needs practice actually.
Well, on an educational level, yeah, I think that would need a lot of patience.
What?
And sight reading skills. I've definitely missed a couple of octaves.
No, but
yeah.
if you want it as soft as possible, then I mean, it created a little bit of anxiety. Like I am waiting, and my muscle, how long is it going to stay suspended in that? Yeah, but you don't want to miss it. Then at the beginning, I thought, okay, am I here? Am I? It doesn't have the bars, to sort of, make it easier to read.
Yeah.
So there is a sense of disintegration. And I think that veers off into maybe a meditative state. So it's a little bit. It is definitely not what you expect. Where's your melody or something? How do you explain that?
Well, I like the idea of music. I'm trying to find a spaciousness and a meditativeness.
Yeah. Well, it is not.
I mean, it's difficult to talk about a 12-tone row here when you have them all in a row, but there is a sense of that as well, isn't there? Like no tonality, if that could be said. 1962.
Yeah, it wasn't obvious to me any kind of tonal.
No,
Absolutely.
It sounds like
you can also say from the score there's no key signature or any such.
C major.
Yeah, like Bartok, everything hangs on, and at the end you get a C major chord, so second violin, so nothing. Yeah.
Good to sort of try and explain some of my ideas with some examples.
Yes.
Yes.
Not necessarily new things, but some new things. The general principle that because I spent years playing, just standard concerts, Chopin, that kind of stuff, and playing in jazz bands, and playing in the theatre, playing in the pit, and that kind of stuff. And it was when I was about, I think, 28, 29, I had some revelation and I kind of had this idea of a sort of multi-dimensional music. And from then on, I've been trying to kind of solve the practical difficulties that come with that. So if you, for example, if you take 5/3, for example, like this, it creates a nice texture, but you wouldn't necessarily say that was 2 speeds going along. You could hear that as 1 speed, like the 5/3, a polyrhythm. But if you arrange those speeds into, for example, if I take triplets like this, D minor triplet, the ear is naturally drawn to hear that as a triplet. And likewise, this triplet here, you're not naturally going to hear that triplet because it's arranged in 3. So if I set them against each other 7 against 5, like this. Really simple example of how you can really feel there's 2 speeds, because your ear can latch on to that 3 there, or can latch onto this 3. When you try and hear them both at the same time, it creates some kind of pulling the mind apart effect. Really what I'm kind of aiming for is to pull the mind apart, to still the mind. In the way that when you do yoga or something, you're stretching your body, and everything gets stretched, and at the end of it, your body feels very wide and still. I want to do the same thing with the mind. And so that's a kind of simple example. But taking that further, I'll stay with triplets, so it can, it's a bit of continuity to what I'm saying. If I had a triplet here, 7 of these, 5 of these, and 3 of these, and 2 of these. Right? We're going to get a texture of those built from triplets, which sounds like this.
How did you start off by with the distribution of these? Did you think of them as having common denominators, or did you think of more of a kind of like a
Well, none of them have common denominators because the numbers I work with are the first 4 primes. So 2, 3, 5, and 7. And this is the early stuff. I was working with 4s back then as well. But now I'm really interested in 2s, 3s, 5s, and 7s because then when I can organise the number of notes and patterns in 4s, generally in 4s and 6s, then you get this they don't meet except in 1. So 7, 5,
Exactly, yeah.
7, 5, 3, and 2 are the speeds I'm interested in for that reason. And going to 11, which is the next one, just seems like more trouble than it's worth. You know, I don't feel like I'm going to get a lot of extra value for spending hundreds and thousands of hours of drilling 11 over 7 and 11 over 5 and 11 over 3, because I feel like what I'll get from that in terms of the effect is not worth the investment, the effort. And also, I've got my hands full just trying to do
Already you have
7, 5, 3, and 2.
Yeah.
It's not just a 7, 5, 3, and 2. What I've been working with recently is trying to rotate those different speeds. And I'm still in the process of learning that. Because the difficult, for example, I'll show you a really simple example.
Yeah.
If I have 7 against 5 against 3 against 2, right? And then I bring the 2 up to the top and shift them all down. So then I've got 2, 7, 5, 3. And then I bring the 3 to the top, I've got 3, 2, 7, 5, and then finally 7, 5, 3, 2.
Yeah,
That sounds like
yeah,
this.
yeah.
Right? I'll just do it with a
rearranging.
switch.
Yeah.
So that's like the drilling, and then it's kind of a point from there. How can I start to make melodies with that? And I'm getting there with that. I can show you a few things with that. But the main difficulty I found is the dynamics, because each part needs to be placed dynamically just right, that you can hear it as a distinct speed, and that they don't get muddled together into one dynamic level. So I'll show you something like this if I go. Then from this texture, having established that texture of 7, 5, 3, and 2, what I'm trying to do is bring out the 5 comes up and then comes back down into the texture. The 3 comes back down into the texture. So there's this moving texture in which melodies and harmonies emerge and come back in, like nature. You know, just trying to kind of, because nature doesn't have its square, straight edges and this kind of stuff. You know, sea or trees or mountains, whatever. There's this merging of different forms. So that's kind of what I've been playing with recently. And it's a case of, trying to drill given patterns that do that. Another example is if you take a running scale going like this, like 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I've got that repeating pattern, just descending down the piano. And then a 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That. And then 3, do the same sort of thing. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then a 2, doing the same thing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 2. And when you put them all together, they all overlap, and it sounds like this. concerts, I've got that pattern which I have, and then it will go a different way depending on the mood or the moment. This is like the basic principle. I'm gonna show you one more.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can edit this
absolutely.
if I'm doing too much. But just one more to get an idea of the principle. That having the polyrhythms and the different speeds is one thing, but then having the phase patterns, bring them together, is what creates the effect of the multi-speed.
Yeah.
So for example, a simple riff like this. Because it's a really simple pattern, that just descending thing, the ear can pick up that very naturally, and you hear 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
and here, even though it's a five notes, the ear can still pick that up quite clearly.
Yeah.
But it's not a 5 and it's not a 4, it's a 7 here and it's a 3 here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, and then the bottom is a 3, from 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
Yeah.
And by setting like that creates the effect. So if I start there, then I've got my thumb in the right hand, free to bring a 5 in. And again, it can go, once that's established.
Yeah, when you first played it, I was thinking it in terms of the 5, but then I noticed that they weren't meeting at the beginning
That's
of the
it.
5.
And that's
So
the
yeah.
whole, that's a fundamental nature of what I'm doing. Is
Yeah.
that it's combining the multi-tempo, the polyrhythm, with the polyphasing, and trying to use those two things to create this effect of multiple speeds. But then, all of the practical difficulties that brings, I'm trying to work through. I've been working through for the last, the dynamics, finding space in all of that is difficult. Bringing parts in and bring them out again. Like you've got 5 against 7 against 3 against 2, you can take the 2 out, bring it back in, and bring the 5 out, and bring it back in, and then bring it back in up here. So that's where most of my practice goes into.
A quick question: if gamelan is a factor?
I mean, I find that music very interesting.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was a big influence, but I mean, the gamelan music, I think it's cool. It's obviously rhythmically very interesting, and I like the dance point like that. But I don't know if you've heard of Bwiti music. There's a country in Africa called Gabon.
Yes,
Yes. Gabon, Libreville, the capital.
Yeah.
And there's a culture called Bwiti, which has grown up around this very powerful psychedelic called iboga. And for thousands of years, they've been taking this super powerful psychedelic and playing music with it. And they've got this 8-string harp, and the rhythms in that blew my mind. And the rhythms in that were a big influence, because when I first heard Bwiti music, it was like, what's going on? There's this happening here, and this happening here. It's a very different sort of things what I'm doing, but it did trigger off that idea of like, wow, like completely different things happening at different speeds at the same time, and create this texture of time.
It's staying constant, even. I mean, the frequency of doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the Pygmies, which is where they came from. The iboga originally came from Pygmies, and you've got the Pygmy music, because it's quite difficult to find it, but they sing in this way where they've got these. Some of them singing one thing, and some of them singing another thing, and some of them singing another thing. But they don't group together in an obvious round. They sort of weave over each other. It's really extraordinary, and they don't write any of that down. They just kind of go up in the forest to do that kind of stuff. So the Gabonese music was a big influence, and definitely Indian music. I love raga music, all that kind of stuff, and obviously more than anything Bach. But I'm sure all of us would say that, Bach is the fundamental of this.
Yes.
Bach, Beethoven, and Wagner.
Yeah.
I think of mine.
My mind would also go a little bit probably to Scriabin in some of his works, because he kind of, in the piano
definitely
music, I
touched
think
on
in the sonatas, and in some of the etudes, he kind of. And then there's Barber as well, who did in one of the excursions, an 8 against the 7, but we're just talking one polyrhythm.
Yeah,
which was quite fascinating. I think it's 8 against 7. I think the third excursion. Yeah.
I did play a fair bit of Scriabin when I was younger, and I do love Scriabin. I think Scriabin is really interesting. I feel like almost feel like I know Scriabin from his work. He seems like such an interesting kind of guy with such a colourful mind.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff he's doing in polyrhythm is probably influenced by that.
Yeah.
I feel like most of the polyrhythms in the classical canon is quite decorative, But I mean, I love Chopin. I did loads of Chopin. half my repertoire when I was doing classical piano was
Yeah,
Chopin.
yeah.
But he uses polyrhythm a lot. But I feel that the polyrhythm there is a decorative polyrhythm. You know, like
Exactly,
things
yeah.
like the first nocturne, you've got 22 over 12. Is it 22 over 12? It feels like it's a decorative thing. And what I was trying to do.
And he notates it in very small notes, so that's probably also an
more
indication that you
cadential
think of it as a,
flow.
you know, like listed also with these cadenza passages. Is there enough? Yeah. Yeah, and expressive, I suppose, ornamental and expressive.
And it's very free-timey. You know, so when Chopin is doing 22 over 12, it's not really 22 over 12. It's kind of because it's 20.
You can kind of play with the division.
Stretch it around a bit.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's a fundamentally different thing.
Yeah, exactly.
What I'm trying to give is the effect of multiple speeds and for specific reasons, so that the listener has their mind pulled apart, and also so that I can balance that with a spaciousness, because that's another thing that I feel like. Coming back to this score, I love the idea in music of there being great space, but it's very easily said. It's very difficult to do. It's very difficult to make space work in composition, because you could just go, space, okay.
Yeah.
Everyone's bored, you know. How are you creating that space? How are you leading into that space? How are you creating framing that space so that it can be like, oh wow, like the spaciousness of it. And paradoxically, I feel that requires complexity. And when there's a lot of complexity, that allows me to kind of bring in a space. So when I can finally get a space, a great big load of space, or at least a spacious sound. Because even if I'm doing something like this, there's a sense of spaciousness to that. Because there's no rhythm. There's no again, I would really struggle to write this down. And if I did write it down, I feel it would be contrived. You know, if I was to try and write down a version of that, or a version that I did, it wouldn't really be the essence of what's happening. But
So, talking about spaciousness, do you think about the space in which your music is heard?
Very much so, and that's another thing that I've had conflicts with, in that I feel that the medium of a concert hall and everyone's just sitting down in chairs, and it just doesn't fit with what I really want to be doing. The idea of music as a kind of entertainment. Ideally what I would like to have is a sort of temple space with everybody lying down in a bed space with a cushion and a pillow, with candles everywhere, you know, and incense. And maybe the space is being prepared with, I don't know, some meditation or something like that, and everybody's in a meditative space, rather than the kind of space, I've come to have some entertainment, I've come to hear some, you know? And it feels to me like so much of the classical piano world has become almost, I used to feel like a glorified museum attendant, right? I'd be playing a concert of Chopin or maybe Beethoven, and I feel like I'm just playing 200-year-old music, like a museum attendant, rather than the music being alive, you know, and being, I hesitate to use the word spiritual because it's such a kind of loaded word in different ways, but to be a spiritual experience, which I feel like what music wants, and that's definitely what Bach was aiming at, and that's what Wagner was aiming at, the music as a transcendental experience.
Yes, yeah.
And that's become lost now, I think, and music's become almost like a commodity. You know, click, 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 I'm bored, you know, next thing, I'm going to go see this band, see this song that I know, or see a thing that I know, and it's become like an entertainment or distraction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit too much of consumption and quite fast. I don't think people are paying much attention to anything, and I think it's this scrolling all the time.
You are hallelujah to that, because I find this with my pupils, their attention span's just gone down. Do you teach piano as well?
Oh, yes.
You find that the kids these days, their sight reading's never been that great, but you find they're trying to get the kids to sight read, their attention is just not there. And I feel like that's why I don't have a phone, and I don't want to have any be involved in that world, because I see it all around me with people getting sucked into it. I've got the tube on the way here. It's like the zombie apocalypse. Everyone's just like.
Well, from student-wise, I mean, I noticed the students I have that read books can sight read.
Right.
The ones that are scrolling always on the phone, they have a very, very narrow attention span.
I talked to people just last night about literature, and I was saying to them, like, if you thought about reading this, if you thought about reading that, just recommend some books. Because I like to read as well. I like to read it first thing in the morning. It's always
but
nice
you
to.
mean an actual book that you're holding in your hands?
Oh yeah, I do. I mean a book that I can smell. You know?
Yes.
I can smell those nice pages. Yeah, what a book.
Yes, it's the whole experience. It's just like with recordings as well. I quite dislike the downloads. I still like
I
the
do.
record.
Yeah.
A vinyl
CD,
is
you
the
know,
way.
yeah.
I mean, this thing where you have to buy so that you can actually access whatever, and actually you still are buying for a segment of what you want. It is not what you want,
Yeah.
it's what they want. Whoever has uploaded, downloaded, I don't care for this. Even the algorithms that tell you, oh, you're more likely to listen to so-and-so who has already so many hits. It's just ridiculous, it's rubbish.
And yet, I feel it's so hard not to get caught up in that because, for example, what I really want to be doing, what I would love to be doing is playing concerts all over the world and playing concerts of this kind of music and trying to have it make an impact and make an influence. But the reality is that if you want to get concerts, that a concert promoter is going to look, how many Spotify streams have you got, how many Instagram followers have you got, and these numbers will have a real world consequence.
Yes.
So that's why I kind of feel like, the last record that we put on Spotify did their album of meditations, very simple stuff. We tried to get someone to help us promote that to kind of get the numbers up.
Yes.
I do feel very conflicted about it. Ultimately, at the heart of my work, and I feel as a musician, is this kind of these contradictions. You know, I love Beethoven, I hate Beethoven. You know, I want complexity, I want simplicity, I want order, but I want spontaneity. I want there to be this enormous order. All of my workbooks are full with different ways of ordering things, different ways of structuring things, all the mathematics. But at the same time, I want things to be free.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be pure as an artist, but I also would like to be successful and to be playing out there, and these things are in conflict.
So that brings at least me to the next thing. I mean, it follows logically. We played a couple of years ago. It was a CD launch event at the Athens Concert Hall, and I was thinking about it coming here. That basically I had the best friend, so she was coming because we're best friends. Her husband, of course, was coming with her because we're best friends, and her husband. Then she dragged her best friend, who then admitted when we went for dinner after that, I mean, starry-eyed, she loved us and she bought the CD, and then she was just in love with the fact that I, scribbled and, we signed, and
But the
with
fact that
love
she
in her.
liked the music.
Yes,
because
but
yeah.
the thing is that with love within her eyes, she admitted that she was dragged, basically, not drugged, dragged. But all of us.
Maybe.
It was.
That would have been the other.
Drugs and drags.
Yeah, I think something like this was there at play.
Yeah.
She didn't want to come, and she explained. She said, "I heard that this is new music because that's what we're doing. It was our first, second release, whatever it was." And I thought it was going to be cats walking all over the piano. And I just, no, I didn't want to come. And I just came because she twisted my arm. and so my question always is, all these preconceptions, I mean, I've heard it all. We like duets, we don't like duets. Why are you duets? Are you playing on two pianos? Are you playing on one piano? Why are you playing modern music? Why aren't you playing music? We've heard it all. And in the end, we are us, and we play music, and we like to invite the audience in, but I think there is a lot of damage done by others who make it feel like maybe a museum. I don't know. So how do you get in touch with your audience? This is where I'm getting at.
It's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult. I mean, I guess this is the reason why my wife is doing Instagram for me. Because she'll come to the piano and she'll ask me questions about what I'm doing, and then she edits it all and puts it on Instagram. And that's one way that I get to the audience. It's not something I really think about very much. I'm just immersed in my own little world of piano, and every now and again I'll make a record and put it on Spotify. And again, it takes some concerts when I'm offered them, which is maybe not as often as I would like. But pre-COVID, it's going quite well. And then COVID happened, and it all came crashing down. That coincided with an album release, which is quite annoying because that sort of torpedoed. Yeah.
Our first release was exactly that. We were April.
Yeah, it was the day before the lockdown started, I think.
We went and recorded on one day because we knew restrictions are coming, and he said if you can stay home you should, but it was not a total
It was quite
lockdown.
surreal actually.
And then after 2 days, something like this, it was we were not going anywhere.
I mean, London was like a desert when we went to record. It was near the Royal Academy. And then it took us 15 minutes to get there.
Exactly.
It was
That was
so
record time.
from Woolwich. Can you imagine that? Yeah.
What were you recording?
Full-hand piano music by, it was John Lewis, the one composer we have there,
Right.
and Hugh Shrapnel. And it was...
Hugh Shrapnel. Any
Yes.
relation to Henry Shrapnel, the inventor of shrapnel? Was he?
That's the brother, actually.
That's the brother.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, not the
Brother
yes.
or dad?
Oh, I don't know.
But it's in the family.
The brother was famous actor who died a few years ago,
Right.
and I think the dad was World War One and the one who gave the name to the shrapnel.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But no, very interesting. See, we did the whole thing in a day.
Yeah, that was. I thought I'd be.
It was just the two of us and Atak Khan, the
engineer.
the engineer. Yeah.
It was fantastic experience, but it was. We did a full day, and it was intense music. It's the first one, Elements of London, and they are also uncategorized in a sense. John has a thing about chemical elements.
Okay.
I have the niobium here. It's quite violent. We can play you a little bit. So
I'd be very interested to hear about that. So, they look at the numbers of the chemical elements. So you've got 8 for oxygen.
And titles.
He just calls
just the titles like
niobium is here.
niobium, chlorine.
So it's not to do with the electrons in the shells, or it's mathematically based around the structure of the
he's
element.
It focuses on the violence of them.
Exactly.
I think it's that kind of
Release of tension.
the release of tension. Yeah. We have the one here.
We have one here. Do you want to hear?
Do you want to hear it?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's half
I
an
don't
hour.
remember anything.
I don't remember.
Until we
Let's do it. Yeah.
Until there, because I
Okay.
don't remember what's coming after.
Okay. Something like that. Yeah.
It definitely sounds like the kind of guy that blows his shed up, doesn't it?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I like it. Is that kind of percussive, almost Bartok-y kind of percussive effects? Would you see which elements he's done? Which elements he's picked out of all of the available elements?
The one that we like that we haven't played in public, it's the one that sounds like hard rock.
Yeah. It goes. It has it's quite flashy, you know, and it has things like it's quite striking, and we haven't played it since 2020.
That was the same one day.
That was on the same one day. The piano took quite a beating. It was about to go out of tune at the end, but we managed to
The
sing it.
piano died. I almost died.
Yeah, it was quite.
So was the piano out of tune when you arrived, or you put it out of tune by playing the?
It was starting to go out of tune at the top note, but we masterfully avoided that top note as much as we could.
Beautiful Steinway.
Beautiful Steinway B. Was it a B model?
I think so.
It was a B.
In
But they didn't have their usual piano technician, so it was just someone who just came in and ran off very quickly.
It's one of those things you kind of learn the hard way, isn't it? When I recorded Third Pieces, the first day of recording, we lost the whole first day because the piano's out of tune. And I was like, who's tuned this piano?
Yeah.
The piano tuner came in, we had an incompetent piano tuner.
Yes.
The publisher had hired an incompetent piano tuner. So I thought, like, from now on, I'll remember. I'll get my own piano tuner in and tune the piano. I remember that.
yes. I don't remember. Every time I'm going like this or like that. Oh yeah, it's that one.
Yay! Nice. Well done. That's great.
It doesn't come out of it.
Can you improvise with it? You see the pattern, how it's put together. So, for example, you've got E major, B flat major. You've kind of got chord, tritone part. That's what construction around. So let me show you what I mean. If you have,
I'll tell you what.
can I play this then? So you see the concept. Once you've got the concept, then you can improvise around it. And the same thing with this here. This is what even is that? Years since I played this. No, I'm an M and A. So once you've got that shape.
Bringing out the sound.
Yeah, so when people conceive, I had the idea of just a bitonal thing here with a crossover of all out will, which then kind of just falls gently into a more consonant harmony, with sort of a delicate harmony with your major sevenths and your sixths. But yeah, all of these were originally improvisations. So I feel like it's nice if you learn one, try improvising with them. Try improvising with this one. Even this first one, it's this. So you improvise that once you've got the 5, 4, 3, 2. That's really how they were. The idea was if I can make etudes and bring techniques out, then the other pianists will maybe evolve those techniques and play with them and all that stuff. But it's lovely to hear you play it. Thank you for learning that. That's really very flattered.
No, it's fine. Can we just can I just suggest that we both sit and improvise?
So
Yeah, you can touch this, it doesn't matter.
like
Yeah, and I'm putting you on the outside.
how about if I go on the bottom?
No, we go
No?
on top.
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking she was very independent than I am.
So, okay.
Not that's a little bit much.
Another one, because you're here, aren't you?
But I'm not going to play. I'm going to play whatever I want.
You want to play this one or play that?
No, I just make your
Or we could do. I was thinking maybe you would play what's written down. And then. No, we can do that, and you can do it now. You can play the lyrics. Go for it.
Oh, you want?
Oh, you want? Yeah.
Look, I'm gonna take a little
Go.
space here.
Yeah.
so that we can at
We
least.
would have to agree on that, yeah, so
yeah.
what you're saying is not really,
That's the thing when you're improvising with somebody else, there's all these constraints that need to be there.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, to be able to.
Yeah.
That's why I like improvising with drummers.
You can't go wrong, you can't go wrong with that.
So tell us a little bit about where can people go and find your music?
You can find my music on Spotify. Is the main place. I'm now on Instagram, right? And there was a YouTube channel as well. So Spotify, Instagram, and YouTube are the obvious places to find me.
And do you have a concert coming up?
I don't have a concert coming up. I've got recordings coming up for another record, but I don't have recording for the exact reason that we were discussing earlier.
Yes.
You know, you try and find the right kind of venue. It's very difficult. So we're working on that. Some of my friends, my sound engineer and my wife, we're working on how we can rethink what a concert is. We've tried different things. We've experimented with different things. We've experimented with, because she teaches meditation, and the last concert we did, she was doing guided meditations, but for each short piece. And we're trying different things. She had ideas of doing like yoga and yin yoga with it. So we're trying out different stuff. I'm trying to find what works with that. But God, it's so difficult to find a venue that's got a good enough piano and then sell enough seats to make it work. And so no, I don't have any upcoming concerts. Short answer.
Okay, there are two little things. One about the venues. Do you find that, I mean, I know, I went even to a meeting and it was for people who arrange their own concerts and concert promoters, and if you ask British people in general in that position, because it was from a foundation, something charity, they clarified that they thought that it's okay to go into a church. I mean, I think that some segments of the population are not happy to come into a Christian church if they are not Christian. I mean, you can be an atheist, but if you've been, you know, like, oh yeah, I'm receptive to, or the others are Christians, and yeah, I don't go with that, that's okay. But if you are from a completely different religion, you might have a problem accessing a concert, even though it's not sponsored maybe by the church. It's not, you know, Christian as it is. I mean, I think there is already enough of a slight problem there with Bach writing to the glory of God. And, you know, if you know about it, maybe you have extra problems with that too. I don't know, but that. Do you find that complicates it?
Well, I think churches are great venues. They've got great acoustics. They've often got good pianos, and I'm happy to play in a church. I mean, as far as religion goes, I've got a broad spectrum of opinions about religion. You know, I'm not any one particular religion, but I definitely borrow from many different religions, and I feel like, you know, ultimately everybody should be religious, but make your own one up. Don't copy someone else's. Is the way I feel about it. Why would you just imitate somebody else's religion? Have your own direct. You know, so that's what my thing. But my wife and I were very much into the different kind of religious culture. But I play in a mosque. I play in a synagogue. I would. I played in India in some religious settings. And in Africa, in Gabon, played in the Abwiti temple in there.
Right.
So I'm really open to all of that kind of thing. I'm kind of open-minded about it. It would be a shame if people were like, I'm not going in that church because I'm one of these religions, so I'm a this, or I'm a that, and I don't agree with that. But then even the whole thing about
it shouldn't get in the way.
The whole idea, I think, even the whole idea of self-identity is just a kind of a massive baggage that we don't need. Like, I'm left-wing, I'm right-wing, I'm capitalist, I'm socialist, I'm idealist. Or I'm whatever, or any kind of label. I'm Christian, I'm Muslim, I'm Jewish. You know, I just feel like all these things. Well, what's the point of that? You know, why are you carrying around this self-identity? How does that assist you? Then, it just seems like a burden. And now with the commonest of identity politics, and I identify as this, and I identify as that. I just feel like we could do without that.
Can do better.
Yeah, I think one of the whole feelings of a serious spirituality is to try and transcend that individual self. To transcend that, I can't put it any better way. Transcend the individual self.
And so, if someone hasn't heard anything, and I mean we have the video, but if no one has heard anything at all about you, and you would like them to come and listen to your music, how would you go about describing it, perhaps?
How would I go about describing my music?
Your music.
Oh gosh. I mean, the multi-tempo thing is the central sort of technical aspect to it. What I'm trying to do is create music that can take the listener deeply into the present moment. So I would hope that I could describe my concerts as bringing the listener deeply into the present moment. That's what I'm aiming to do. And I guess with various success. Some people I've spoken to, it seems to have that effect. Other people just go, oh, it's very nice. So different people respond different ways. But that's what I would hope would be the impact. I would consider it. I would consider writing piano duet. I guess if you had a piano duet, you could have 8 different speeds, couldn't you? 4 in each, two each hand for the speed.
I'm sorry.
But for the most part, I mean, this central difficulty I have with writing things down, because at heart, I'm an improviser. I've always been, when I first started playing professionally, it was improvising, and so many things I've done have been improvisational nature, and I like to be free. And the thing that I disliked most about doing classical recitals was like I felt so straitjacketed. I've got to remember 20,000 notes or however many, and and I have to be so focused, and I just want to be just free in the music in the moment. And so I want to compose structures that I can improvise around rather than written notes. So I don't know what that score might look like, but I would certainly be open to it. Yeah, I'd be open to writing it would probably be quite polyrhythmic.
Yeah.
I'd imagine. I've not written a duet before, and I don't really play duets except as a piano teacher with pupils. You do duets.
Sure,
It's not something I've gone hugely into. I played the Schubert F minor with my mum. Probably the most popular duet of all time, I would imagine.
Yeah.
For good reason as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys performed that one.
It's a lovely one.
It's lovely. I mean, we are very eclectic, so we've done all the Mozart sonatas. We experimented with speeds, because I also have. I mean, that was not a musicological take, but actually it is. Within performance studies, it is a discussion about how confined are you or should you be by whatever notion of speed, tempos, choice. So I remember that we went through a phase where we were playing the Mozart sonatas, and we were experimenting with quite fast tempo. I mean, some of it was just nuts, but it's an interesting take.
We have to try. Yeah.
So we do whatever we want, basically. So we like to promote British composers. We've done that a lot. We're Greeks. We can, so we have also Greek composers that we work with. And then, of course, we have our personal likes, affinities. Debussy, Ravel, Busoni. That.
I love Debussy with that. Really do.
Wonderful stuff.
Yeah, so we're touring this with this year. Call it touring, yes. From one venue to the next.
Yeah.
Yes.
A studio date in, I think, a month and a half or something like that. Yeah. But then once it's recorded, then it's mixed, and then there's the promotion, and you've got the single from it, and all that kind of thing. So it probably won't get released in November or something like that.
Yes, absolutely. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Very much.
But for the time being, there are 3 records on Spotify. This one and 31 Pieces, which is my favourite. And also, there's actually this is no good for the attention span of the modern populace, but there's a film of 31 Pieces on YouTube. It exists. You can think of it as a long music video, but essentially it's a film of 31 Pieces. And the 31 Pieces record, because it's semi-improvised, the cut that was used for the CD is different from the cuts that are used for the film. So in the film, there's different versions of all the pieces. I had a filmmaker do that, and I think I like it. It's more than an hour long, so it's difficult to get anybody to sit down and watch the whole thing through because they've got attention span of a goldfish, But I would like to direct people towards the film on YouTube, the film of 31 Pieces, and the records on Spotify.
We will link it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.